Colorado defensive coordinator Robert Livingston is out, but who is in? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the business. So thank you for liking, subscribing, and making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Robert Livingston is out. We'll talk about who's in. We're going to talk about the new defensive line coach as well. And hint, Coach Prime went from within for both. And so Robert Livingston, it was confirmed by Adam Schefter not too long ago, is leaving Colorado to go join the Denver Broncos staff and reunite with Vance Joseph, who he worked with or for during his time in the NFL. And he just, I guess, and this is what the report says, Broncos are hiring Colorado defensive coordinator Robert Livingston as their defensive pass game coordinator. This move reunites Livingston with Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, who he previously worked with on the Bengals staff. So it's one of those things where I felt like the writing was on the wall, right? I think Robert Livingston had interviewed for a couple of jobs after last season, the 2024 season, that is. And then he interviewed for a job this offseason. And they were all NFL jobs. I didn't really ever hear of him interviewing for college jobs. And so it seemed to me that he's an NFL guy and just wanted an opportunity to call a defense, which, I mean, we're seeing NFL teams hire position coaches and coordinators from the college level more and more frequently. And so seeing Robert Livingston leave doesn't shock me at all because he's sort of been eyeing a move to the NFL. Now, in terms of whether or not I would call his tenure a success, I would give him a C, right? Because I think year one was electric. I think year one worked out really well. Year one, they also had Travis Hunter, who was the best defensive player in college football, I guess you could say, or not even I guess, like he legit was the best defensive player in college football. And so there was that, and Colorado had a really impressive defense. They went 9-4. They led the Big 12 in sacks. They were very explosive all over the field. They had great athletes. The problem is he didn't have the personnel this past year. I don't think he made the right adjustments. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth over, was it his decision to play man coverage all the time, or was it Coach Prime's decision? So maybe there was a little bit of a power struggle there. But either way, I wasn't impressed with the defense this past year, right? The secondary took a step back in my eyes, and he was a safeties coach, and I would say the safeties, I mean, Tafik Bayard was really good, but other than that, the defense struggled a lot. They ranked 98th in opponents' points per game at 30.5. They ranked 112th in opponents' yards per game at giving up 425.7. Opponents were converting 35.2% of the time on third down, which that was actually pretty good. They ranked 34th. And then opponents' red zone scoring percentage, they scored 83.3% of the time. So not great overall. And if you're Robert Livingston, I think you take this experience, you put it on your resume, you go work in the NFL, and I think he's probably a year away from getting a defensive coordinator job. Like, that's just sort of how this movie goes. And I think he really benefited from the talent level he inherited in last season, right? Like I said, you had Travis Hunter, you had DJ McKinney as a cornerback 2 is a lot better than DJ McKinney as your top corner, or at least that's how I viewed him. Preston Hodge was really good this past year. The linebacker, or not this past year, 2024. This past season, 2025, I think every position group on the team on defense took a step back, right? The corners, horrendous. The safeties outside of Tafik Bayard, useless. The linebackers, unplayable, right? You had 4 or 5 linebackers, and it's like, not only did we not find the right linebackers until the 10th game of the season and Sean Myers and Jeremiah Brown, which I think they went to Jeremiah Brown a little earlier, but you're playing Reggie Hughes and Martavius French all year long, and those guys are constantly out of position, constantly whiffing on tackles, constantly just not in the right spot. Like, it was just disastrous. And then the defensive line, Colorado went from leading the Big 12 in sacks. I think they had like 30 plus they had 13 as a team. So I was questioning his ability to scheme things. I think Robert Livingston's saving grace this past year, honestly, aside from the fact that he got a really fat raise, was the fact that Pat Shurmur was on staff, right? Pat Shurmur took a lot of heat off of Robert Livingston because it was like the offense was legit terrible. So I think everyone was focused on that. So that's where I sort of am hesitant with Robert Livingston. Again, year one, really good. Year two, not so much. Now, let's talk about who's going to replace him, because this is a weird time for coaches to leave. I think even though I think a lot of us weren't too impressed with Robert Livingston, you have to kind of look at him and go, really? You're leaving now during spring ball? That's when you decide to leave? Like, I think that's kind of dirty. I do think Coach Prime is probably prepared for something like this. I think Robert Livingston makes him aware of when he's interviewing for jobs, but still, where does Coach Prime go? Well, I know where he goes, and I'll explain to you guys after a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win at an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole shebang. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future to get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. This episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at TurboTax. Tax season is here. We all hate it, I know, but you don't have to hate it, and it doesn't have to be difficult, because TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local, to book your appointment today. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. This show wouldn't be possible without you, and I love every second of it. So Coach Prime had a plan in place, clearly. After Robert Livingston, the news broke that Chris Marv is in as defensive coordinator. So if you're not familiar with Chris Marv, he is the linebackers coach, or what I guess was solely the linebackers coach. Now he's going to be doing both. Chris Marv had a very interesting tenure at Virginia Tech. There was a point where the Hokies had a top 20 defense, and then this past season they were 58th in total defense, right? They were 20th and 23, 58th this past year, and he was let go by the program amid the coaching changes. They were 91st. Nope. That was an offensive line thing. So his defense took a step back. Now, very experienced recruiter, very experienced linebackers coach. He has defensive coordinator experience, and he has proven success. Now, was it a talent thing? Was it a him thing? I think it could have been sort of more of a talent thing, right? Virginia Tech's roster has not been the most talented by any means over the past couple of years. They sort of took a step back under Brent Pry. There's a reason that he was let go. There's a reason that they sort of shifted things. Now, Brent Pry, they like him as a defensive coordinator, right? James Franklin literally fired him as a head coach, and James Franklin was like, okay, but in reality, come back and be my head coach, right? So Virginia Tech's records, 3-8, 7-6, 6-7, 3-9. So not a lot of success there. Chris Marv, though, I mean, he brings experience. He was an all SEC linebacker. He can relate to the players. Obviously, Coach Prime saw a lot from him in the 3 months or 4 months that he's been on the job, because I don't think you promote someone unless you're that confident and then that they could be the guy that you're looking for. But he's 36 years old. He's very young. It's one of those things where Coach Prime, I think, wants to establish continuity. And I also think it would have been really difficult, the timing of this, like I said earlier, really difficult to find a defensive coordinator when pretty much all the dust has settled. So he's a former linebacker that was a freshman All-American in 2008, three-time second-team All-SEC member at Vandy. He had almost 400 career tackles. As a coach, this is his journey. He began his coaching career at Vanderbilt as a defensive quality control coach in 2014, then went to a GA role, and then served as outside linebackers coach in 2015, and then was promoted to the inside linebackers coach 2016, where he stayed there until 2018. Linebackers coach and defensive recruiting coordinator at Mississippi State in 2019. So I like that because he's a recruiter. Colorado has struggled to recruit, and I think now the staff is more geared towards recruiting high school ranked players. Obviously, Coach Andre Hart was demoted after this past season, and they bring in Coach Marv. And so the Virginia Tech defense had some up and down moments with Coach Marv. Am I excited by this hire? I would say yes and no, because reality, I think you have to sort of understand, like, he had some bright moments, but why did the defense fall off? Was it talent? Was it coaching? Was it scheme? And so if it's scheme, it's like, okay, well, we just had a defensive coordinator in Robert Livingston who struggled to adjust his scheme or wasn't able to adjust his scheme. Now, again, and I said this in the first segment, a lot of people sort of pointed the finger at Coach Prime, being like, the main reason Robert Livingston wasn't adjusting his scheme was because Coach Prime wasn't allowing him to adjust his scheme. So we're going to find out. Now, the one thing I will say I like about this hire, linebackers coach, front seven minded, right? I think that should really help Colorado's front seven improve, because they were pathetic last year. And Robert Livingston's more of a secondary guy. And although he knows a lot of football and was in the NFL level for, I think it was like a decade plus before he took the Colorado job, maybe he just didn't know what to do for his front seven to make things easier for his secondary, right? Maybe that was the problem he had. I'm not sure. But excuse me as I fight off that weird February flu. Coach Prime, I think, knows what he's doing with this hire. He's bringing in someone who has recruiting experience. He's bringing in someone with defensive coordinator experience on short notice, so you got to do what you got to do. And then he's bringing in someone who is more front seven oriented, which I think is where Colorado was at their weakest. So I expect the front seven to be a lot better, and they need to be better, because right off the bat, you play Georgia Tech, who's going to be physical as ever, right? Brent Key, his offenses run the ball down your throats. They are known for being physical. You get Weber State, sure, but then you get Northwestern on the road. Chip Kelly's going to be calling plays. His offenses are always good at running the ball. His offenses are always good at being physical. So there's that. Excuse me. It's one of those things where you have to see the need and address the need. Now, Chris Marv as a recruiter, I think, is also exciting. And I'll pull up some of the notable recruits he recruited, because that's been sort of an issue for Colorado, is like identifying underrated talent. Now, as a coach, he has to be able to identify guys, and especially at Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech, specifically Vanderbilt when they weren't popping, right? You have to be able to find guys that are talented, build a connection there, and bring them in, right? He recruited Austin Orji to Vanderbilt. He was a 4-star recruit out of Rockwell, Texas, who didn't really end up being the linebacker that they thought, but that's a big recruiting win. Gabe Williams from Virginia Tech. He was a really productive linebacker, 4-star recruit, 187th prospect, number 8 player in the state of Maryland. Like, he was a big win. He also recruited a guy in Chance Fitzgerald, 6'3" wide receiver. He was a secondary recruiter there. Kamari Copeland, 4-star recruit to Virginia Tech. Anthony Orji, the brother of Austin Orji, he got him to Vanderbilt, right? So he has success bringing in 4-star recruits to, let's be honest, Vanderbilt in 2017, that's around the time where that one guy, we all know the video where he's like, anybody could get it. Alabama's next, right? Against the Jalen Hurts Alabama squad that dropped 50 on them, right? So imagine being able to bring in talent to that Vanderbilt, right? It's not the Vanderbilt that we know now that's getting 5-star quarterbacks. Like, that's not the Vanderbilt. Like, he was bringing in some blue chip recruits to a bad Vanderbilt program. Now, what do I want to see from him? One, I want to see a more physical defense. I think Colorado got pushed around way too much this past season. I just felt like they were constantly getting pushed back in the run game. I mean, there's a reason they had one of the worst run defenses in college football. They weren't physical enough. Two, I want to see adjustments. Now, people could throw the blame at Coach Prime and be like, he wants to run man coverage till the wheels fall off because he was a great man coverage corner. I don't think Coach Prime is really, if that was the case, I don't think he's hanging his hat on that anymore, right? He saw how that worked. It didn't, right? So I want to see adjustments. If you start off in a 3-4 and you want to move to a 4-3, great. If you want to move to more zone coverage because man's not working, great. If you want to move to man because zone stuff's not working, great. Whatever the adjustment is, I need to see it from Coach Marv. And then lastly, I want to see a defense that people don't want to play, right? It doesn't have to be a top 25 defense. It doesn't have to be a top 15 defense. That'd be great. But I want to see a defense that's stout, knows their assignments, and other offenses are like, ugh, I really don't want to go up against Colorado because they're in the right position all the time. They make the right plays. They could force turnovers. And that was another thing that Colorado did really well in 2024. They forced turnovers. Can this Colorado team be disruptive? Can they force turnovers? Can they be in the right position? That's all what Coach Marv has to worry about. So Robert Livingston out. Coach Chris Marv is in. We will see how that changes things moving forward. Now, these weren't the only coaching changes. There was a new defensive line coach that was announced last night, and I'm going to talk about him when we come back.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Also, go join our Everydayer Club. We have a cool Discord where we're discussing all things Colorado. I had some info that changes were happening. I talked about it there, right? I knew some of the former NFL players joining the staff. I've talked about them there. So if you want more information, it's in the comments or in the caption below. You could also go to lockedonbuffs.supercast.com. You can chat with me. You can chat with Jay Smith, who's on the show frequently. Who you could also ask questions to former Buff Jordan Dominic, who I have on the show throughout the season. We do some film study stuff. So join the Everydayer Club. It's really fun. It's really cool. Let's talk new defensive line coach. Another promotion from within. And I like this one because I feel like this is what you do. You build up a staff of guys who you feel confident in. And Coach Prime loses D'Amato Pecco. Wasn't too impressed with him, honestly. I think it was kind of an incomplete, as Philip Duke said, because we didn't get to see him recruit that well or that much. We didn't get to see him coach a defensive line that he recruited. And so we just sort of saw the result that was. And it was like, okay, it wasn't very good, but he didn't have the guys he probably would have picked. So anyway, Coach Prime promoted Dante Carter, new defense line coach. Before joining Colorado this past season, he was the defense line coach for Texas College at the NII school in Tyler, Texas, which is like, I think it's the oldest HBCU in East Texas. So that's really cool. The unit was impressive. They had fourth most sacks in the NII level with 39. During his playing career, he was a defense tackle at Southern Eastern, Louisiana. He ended up at Prairie View A&M, a recent college player who played in 2022. So he's super young. He's around my age, I think. Had 29 total tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1.5 sacks. And it's one of those things where the players seem to like him. And he's been in the program. He knows what the expectations are. And I like Coach Prime taking a chance on a young coach like this. I would say last year I would have been skeptical about this, honestly. I'm more skeptical about Chris Marv as a defensive line or a defensive coordinator just because it didn't end well at Virginia Tech. So I would like to know what changes he's making. But I like a promotion from within because Gunnar White was a promotion from within. And I doubted it because I was like, okay, like we've never heard of this guy. He's been on the staff, but we don't know much about him. And Gunnar White did really well this past year. And I think Brendan Marion's offense will help the offense line improve even more. And I think a guy like Coach Carter, who has been with the team, knows the players. And I think that's the key part for me right now is he knows the players, at least to some degree, because it's a whole new defensive line, but he knows who's there. And I think he has an idea of what Coach Prime is wanting. And I think he will sort of elevate this unit. And he's getting a chance as a young coach. And I admire Coach Prime from hiring from within because it's one of those things where a lot of these guys get overlooked because they're not as experienced, right? Coaches even I was like, you know what? Go get Ed Orgeron, right? Ed Orgeron was begging people to give him a coaching opportunity this past offseason. He didn't get one. So I was like, go get Ed O, bring him in. He's a good recruiter, but you have the opportunity to sort of dive into your own staff and find someone who's worthy and has worked hard. And I like that move. So you get a new defensive coordinator, a new defensive line coach. It's unclear who's coaching the linebackers. I imagine Coach Marv is going to pull double duty. I think the biggest question now is safeties coach, which I think Coach Prime brought on Von Bell. I talked about this in the Discord a while ago. He brought on Von Bell, the NFL player. He was an analyst role. Maybe he gets promoted to that safeties coach. We'll see. I'll have more about that in the Discord because that's something I talked about probably a month and a half ago that Von Bell was joining the staff. So if you want to join the Discord and chat some Buffs football, go ahead because I think it's one of those things where Coach Prime is clearly on a promoting from within kick. And I mean, it's tough right now. Everybody's doing spring ball. So you're not going to go out and be like, okay, we're going to pluck you. Like your best bet is to promote from within, or you go to a G5 program and be like, okay, well, we're going to poach you. Right. So it's either poach or promote. And I think Coach Prime is more leaning towards promoting, right? Because it's guys that are within his program have some sort of loyalty to his staff and him. So big couple days for Colorado's defense. We'll see how this unit performs in the coming season. I'm excited to see if this changes their schematics moving forward, but you guys know where to find me. Excuse me. I'm free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Join the Discord so we can talk more. You can message me directly and be like, hey, love your take, or hey, I think you're stupid. Either one, I'll take it. Appreciate all you guys. Hope all of you have a great and safe Wednesday. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked on Buffs. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, and I will see you guys tomorrow.